सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
For just a day, or at least a day, we are making a retreat, a tactical retreat from Israel, Middle East, also to give you a break. But you know what? We might go away from Israel and Middle East, at least for a day, but geopolitics doesn't leave us. And we don't leave geopolitics. And why can't we leave geopolitics and geopolitics will not leave us? Listen to Ken McCallum, the chief of British MI5, the British Internal Security Agency, Intelligence Agency, MI5. He says, and I quote, "If you are working today at the cutting edge of technology, then geopolitics is interested in you, even if you are not interested in geopolitics." So geopolitics is a part of all our lives. And please do stay with me while we get done with the geopolitical bit, because then we will also have a very interesting guest for you. That is Moushumi Gupta, our deputy editor, who's just done a tour of duty in Sikkim following the unfortunate dam collapse and the glacial flood there. Because remember, at The Print, we take all parts of India very seriously, but the Northeast even more seriously. And for us, then commercial considerations don't matter. Sikkim may just be a state of 500,000 people or thereabouts, but they are fellow Indians. Tista is an Indian river. These mountains, the Himalayas, the rivers, the people, the forests, everything belongs to all of us Indians equally, and we have a stake in this. And wherever the story is, reporters from The Print will go there, because The Print invests a lot of time, energy, editorial effort and expense in ground reporting. And that only becomes possible because of brilliant people like you who take paid subscriptions. So when you take a paid subscription, please do, if you haven't taken one already, and if you've taken one already, then please renew it, because that will go towards making ground reporting like this possible. That said, let's get back to geopolitics, and as that ends, I will bring in Moushumi into our conversation. This season is like that, because as the world's attention is turned to Israel and Middle East, Joe Biden has finished his visit there, Rishi Sunak has got there are lots of others coming in and interceding and speaking up. Narendra Modi, our Prime Minister, has also now spoken with Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas and reasserted India's old position on a Palestinian state, support for a Palestinian state and a two-state solution. At the same time, something else very interesting is happening in two different places, 10,000 plus kilometers apart. So in Beijing, Xi Jinping is hosting his big party, which is his third BRI, Belt and Road Initiative Forum, where he's got 150 mostly developing countries represented, countries which are usually swept into the basket called, in my view, quite erroneously, the global south. The important thing is he's got Putin with him. And while Xi Jinping's party goes on in Beijing, party highlighted by his friendship, brotherhood, whatever you call it, with his best friend forever, or what usually is called BFF, that is Vladimir Putin. At the same time, the heads of intelligence agencies of the Five Eyes Alliance. This Five Eyes Alliance, which we've spoken about often enough in the past, that is the US, Britain, Australia, New Zealand and Canada, the 5 Anglosphere countries. They share their intelligence, they meet often, but this time they've met in public, which is not something they do often. They've met not in Washington, not in London, not in Ottawa, not in Canberra, or for that matter Wellington in New Zealand. No, they haven't met at any of these places. These 5 heads of the top intelligence agencies in the Western world, in the Anglosphere, are meeting at Palo Alto, in the heart of Silicon Valley. In fact, they were meeting at Stanford University. They also did a discussion, they were in conversation with Condoleezza Rice, the former Secretary of State, former US Secretary of State. And this was a discussion hosted by the Hoover Institution. So we have a lot available from there. There was a press conference, there are statements. Some of these have given interviews to their domestic media, particularly the British MI5 chief Ken McCallum, who spoke with the BBC and made a very important statement there. Also, we have this discussion that we have watched and we pulled out some very interesting highlights for it. In fact, I have to thank our colleague and our news editor Janki Dave for doing this. Now, if you watch all this, if you read all this and then you see what's been happening in Beijing with BRI, because with BRI, while all the other show goes on, Xi Jinping has unveiled one more initiative. So in the past, Xi Jinping has been talking about his many global initiatives. In fact, we dedicated a full episode of Cut The Clutter to these when he had unveiled this vision of global initiatives. Now he's added one more to his earlier list of global initiatives, which were Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, most important and critical, and Global Civilization Initiative. To that now he has added the Global Artificial Intelligence Governance Initiative. So he is talking about artificial intelligence at a time when he has Putin in attendance, 150 other developing countries or 150 or thereabouts who don't particularly count, but remember, one NATO ally, the only European country, only member of what might be called, you might be able to describe it as a member of the Western Alliance, that is Viktor Orban of Hungary. He is present there too, and that is where Xi Jinping has unveiled his Global Artificial Intelligence Governance Initiative. Now almost a perfectly timed echo of this comes from this Five Eyes conference in Palo Alto, because what is this conference? This is not just any conference. That is not just any get together of the Five Eyes intelligence heads. This gathering is for the first time ever, and this is called Emerging Technology and Security Innovation Security Summit. So once again, while Xi Jinping is talking about his global AI governance initiative, heads of 5 top Western intelligence organizations are talking about how to protect their technologies from Chinese espionage. Now, how big is Chinese espionage of Western technologies, or what is the Western world worrying about, or the technologically most advanced world worried about? Once again, Ken McCallum, speaking to the BBC, he said, and I am sharing the story with you, you will see a screenshot on your screens. He said, we have seen a sustained campaign on a pretty epic scale. This is the campaign of espionage. At the same time, listen to some of the others also. Let me first give you the cast of characters. FBI Director Christopher Gray is there, as is MI5 Director General Ken McCallum. Australian Security Intelligence Organization ACIO Director General Mike Burgess, Canadian Security Intelligence Service Director David Vignault, Director General of Security and Chief Executive New Zealand Security Intelligence Service Andrew Hampton. All these were present at Palo Alto, and they at the end of the conference unveiled what was called 5 principles to secure innovation. These 5 principles to secure innovation, you will see the chart on your screens. These 5 principles are: 1. Know the threats. Number 2. Secure your business environment. Number 3. Secure your products. Number 4. Secure your partnerships. Number 5. Secure your growth. Now, these may sound very general, but if you just read underneath them, one odd line will tell you how seriously these threats are being taken. For example, if I take the last point, secure your growth, it says, as you enter international markets, you will need to consider export controls, jurisdiction risk, and travel security. Very important, travel security. Once again, if you want to look at secure your business environment, it says ownership. Appoint a board level security lead who factors security into business decisions and initiates security dialogue within the business. And then it adds also make arrangements for mitigation, protect your critical assets using physical and virtual barriers, access controls and detection, and plan your response should something go wrong. How to secure your products? It says secure by default. That is, embed security in your products and services to keep your customers safe and develop a more secure society. Now, you've seen these 5 principles, five intelligence leaders of the Five Eyes Alliance, and the 5 principles of basically technology security. Because what are they worried about? They are worried about theft of their modern technologies. And now, what are the technologies they are talking about? So first of all, let me quote from the press conference held at this event, where Christopher Wray, the FBI chief, spoke, and he said, and I quote from him, "If China wants to be a great nation, it's time to start acting like one, abiding by its commitment not to steal innovation, chori, not to steal innovation, following other basic norms like not exporting repression or working with other nations against dangers that all nations face, like cybercrime, money laundering," and then he says fentanyl trafficking. Fentanyl is an opioid painkiller used very sparingly in cases of really bad cancer, etc., to relieve pain. It is 50 to 100 times more potent than even morphine, and a lot of the smuggling of fentanyl apparently takes place from China. So he's also bringing that in, and then he goes on to say, and I quote again, "China has made economic espionage and stealing others' work and ideas a central component of its national strategy, and the espionage is at the expense of innovators of all 5 of our countries." Now, whatever applies to all 5 of those countries applies to all other countries who are not China's allies, particularly India in this case, because India is the one we are bothered about more. Then in his discussion with Condoleezza Rice, Christopher Wray again speaks, and he says, and I quote again, "There is no greater threat to innovation than the Chinese government, and it's a measure of how seriously the 5 of us in our services take that threat." And then he repeats, "The Chinese government is absolutely the biggest threat we face." And then Christopher Wray goes on to say, not only is China running one of the largest hacking operations in the world, but also using students, joint ventures, startups, and employees placed inside Western companies to acquire crucial information on artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biometrics, robotics, and other leading technologies. Now, when you watch this, when you read this, remember also the initiative on global AI governance that Xi Jinping unveiled. So there is a competition on there. In fact, it's a very sizable contest, and today's geopolitical contest is not about megatonnage of nuclear weapons. It's not about the range of your ballistic missiles. It's about whose technology stays ahead in these areas. Now, Christopher Wray's reference to Chinese students, employees, Chinese employees in Western companies, that has to be read with what David Vignault, the director of the Canadian CSIS, as it's called, Canadian Security Intelligence Service, said. He said that the Chinese Communist Party has passed legislation, and I am quoting him, "The Chinese Communist Party has passed legislation to force any person of Chinese origin anywhere in the world to support their intelligence services." Any person of Chinese origin, doesn't have to be Chinese citizen. It means, and I am quoting Vignault again, it means they have a way to coerce people here in our countries to essentially tell them to give them the secrets. That is how deep the concern is about Chinese technology and scientific espionage. Back to Christopher Wray, he says, and I quote again, "The FBI have over the last several years had about a 1300% increase in investigations that are in one way or another related to attempts to steal intellectual property and other secrets by some form of the Chinese government or some arm of the Chinese government." In fact, he went on to say that FBI is now registering one such case every 12 hours in the US. I can pick you some gems from the others. Mike Burgess, Director General of Australia's Intelligence Service, you can count on an Aussie to be the most forthright. So he says, and I quote again, "All nations spy and steal secrets, but the Chinese government's behavior goes well beyond traditional espionage." Again, he goes on to say, and I quote, "We have the Chinese government engaged in the most sustained scale and sophisticated theft of intellectual property and acquisition of expertise that is unprecedented in human history. That threat needs to be drawn out, awareness raised, and together we can do something about it." And just as Christopher Wray, the FBI head, underlined that over the past few years, they've seen a 1300% rise in registration of cases of technological espionage against the Chinese. The MI5 Director General Ken McCallum also said that that 20,000 people in Britain have been approached by the Chinese through through technological means, many of them through LinkedIn, to recruit them to work for them, mostly if not entirely for technological espionage. That is how big this threat is. So right now, look at geopolitics, 3 places, 3 theaters, one playing out in the Middle East, the other playing out in Beijing, and the third one you can see is speaking out to you from Palo Alto in Silicon Valley. That pretty much completes this complex picture for the day. Having said that, I will now invite my colleague and our deputy editor Moushumi Gupta, who's, as I told you, has just finished a tour of duty, a very interesting but a very tough tour of duty in Sikkim, and she will talk about what is it that she found there. Do meet Moushumi Gupta, our deputy editor. Moushumi, compliments for the wonderful reporting work you did from Sikkim just now. I'm not saying congratulations because it was such a tragedy. I'm just saying compliments for fine professional reporting work. Now, you've done a bunch of stories. First, I'm listing some significant stories and you will see the screenshots on your screen. So, for number 1, what happened on October 3. Number 2, she explained what is GLOF and what is moraine, and she'll do that now. Number 3 was the Chungthang Dam finances. That is the dam that the flood took away. 4th, there was the interview with Pawan Chamling, a former chief minister for a very long time, and then also how Sikkim is managing for power, because all the power it produced, practically all the power it produced was from Tista river, and that system is broken down. So Moushumi, first tell us, what was it like to cover this story and what were the challenges?
It was challenging in the sense, I mean, from the time I landed on October 8th, because all the roads, the national highway was damaged. National highway 10 was damaged, that connects Bagdogra to Sikkim, Gangtok. That was damaged in many places.
Because on that highway, in fact, you have to cross Tista river several times.
Several times, yes. So that was damaged. So we took an alternate route which went through Rongpo in East Sikkim, Rongpo, Singtam, which was damaged. One of the NHPC Tista 5 project, the dam was damaged there, partially damaged there. So it took a long time. We had to take a detour. So it took around 8 to 9 hours. And that road is very bad.
What should have taken about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and that road is very bad. So in Singtam, in fact, when we were driving to the NHPC Tista 5 project, in many stretches of that road, the water from the Tista had come on the night of 3rd and
on the
4th,
highway.
On the highway. So, I mean, that also tells us the height to which the water rose, the level of the water rose to that height. So, the roads were broken and we could see how the water had, entered people's houses, 3-story houses, 4-story houses, and the house, and it brought in silt, debris, sludge, and there were these government bulldozers which were, helping in cleaning up.
Tista is a very temperamental river.
Yeah, Tista, I mean, it starts from the it's a Himalayan river. It starts
from the glaciers.
Then it enters Sikkim, goes to West Bengal, and then eventually enters Bangladesh. So in Sikkim, the Tista's course is around 400 kilometers.
Yeah, it can go up quite rapidly. Every flood in Tista is like a flash flood.
Yeah.
But this one was particularly different. What happened in this case?
This was different first because it happened late at night. So on October 3rd, around 10:40 p.m. at night, so the first alarm was raised by this ITBP commander who was at the border outpost at a place called Zanak, which is some 8 kilometers away from the downstream from the South Lonak Lake.
So if I may interrupt you for a second, that is one of the finest stories she did on this trip, about this ITBP soldier who gave out the first warning, who figured out from his lonely perch what was happening, and he saved many lives. That is the story that Moushumi is now telling us about. So Moushumi, tell us about this ITBP soldier.
So there was this ITBP commander who was patrolling at the border outpost at Zanak. This place is some 8 kilometers downstream of South Lonak Lake, which overflowed, resulting in the flood. So this commander, sometime around 10:30, he sees, and just next to 300 meters away from the border outpost was this river, Goma Chu. Chu basically means river, so it's a narrow river. it goes and meets the eastern downstream.
Chu is Tibetan for a stream.
Stream, yeah. So it's a narrow stream. So this commander suddenly sees the water level rising. So
Dramatically.
Yeah, dramatically. So even as he's figuring out what is happening, and he goes towards the room where there is a phone to communicate it to his commandant. He goes there, he turns around and he sees that, and this would be like a fraction of 5 to 7 minutes, the water level at Gomachu has risen to up to 6 to 7 feet, and the water was had reached the top of the hutment that has the ITBP hutment there. And it was at that point of time that he rushed and he informed his commandant, who without wasting any time informed the battalion headquarters at Gangtok. And there the ITBP DIG, the DIG's name is K. Sanjay Kumar, who called up the authorities in Chungtham, who called up the administration in Gangtok, administration in Singtam, Rangpo, to inform them about what is happening. And at that point of time, it was the administration that got into action, but it was mostly the ITBP soldiers, the ITBP team at Chungthang, because it was late at night. By the time all this happened, it must be around 11. So some of my contacts there were telling me that the ITBP team were, literally banging on people's door, banging on, police station to get out, to get the police, the staff out, banging at people's door, residents' door, forcing them out of their house, because, there was no warning. Given that dam has, there is this huge.
And but for their warning, more lives would have been lost.
Yeah.
So they saved many lives.
Yeah. So in around 15 to 20 minutes, by 11:30, they had evacuated some 300 people who were living on the
edge of the river.
Yeah, edge of the river, and they had taken them to a vantage point at a height, and because of which they were saved. And in fact, they were the ones who also informed the Chungthang dam authorities. And by the time the dam authorities realized that the water is rising above the danger level, they went to open the dam gates. But unfortunately, there was a team of 10 to 12 people there from the Chungtham, dam, who got washed away, who got swept away. And from Chungthang, the water.
They are heroes too, unfortunate, but heroes too, because they died in the line of duty.
Yeah, in fact, the ITPP guys were telling me that, they were telling the dam authority staff that, it's too late now and the water is coming, approaching.
And too dangerous.
Too dangerous. But they said that, they have this SOP to follow. Whenever the water goes above the danger mark, they have to lift the dam gate. And in fact, there was this whole debate on whether the dam gates the spillways were lifted or not. So these guys went, and it takes time to lift a spillway. Spillway is basically the dam gate. So though it's a hydromechanical system, it takes roughly around 15 minutes to lift one gate, and there are 5 dam gates. So they had opened around 20 to 25% of the gate by the time the water overtopped the dam and
went over the dam.
Went over the dam. And
so explain what is GLOF and whether this was a GLOF event or not.
This was scientists and geologists who we have spoken to are saying that this is GLOF. So what had happened is that the South Lonak is a glacial lake.
So glacial lake outburst flood. That's GLOF.
Yeah, that's flood, glacial lake outburst flood, and it's fed by melting glaciers. So you have the South Lonak Glacier, a little above the South Lonak Lake, you have the North Lonak Glacier. So what happened on the night, and this scientist said that they got to, they analyzed this after they saw satellite images on October 6th. So there was a piece, there was moraine. Moraine is basically a structure of unconsolidated sediments, debris.
That's a part of a mountainside falling into the lake.
Yeah,
yes.
so a lateral moraine got detached and it fell into the deepest portion of the lake.
Yeah, and the water then spilled over.
Yeah, water spilled over through the outlet and it went downstream, and when it reached Chungtham, there was already, because it was raining, and there was already water in the Chungtham river, so it added to it, and then it overtopped the dam, and the reservoir of the Chungtham dam had 5 million cubic meters of water. So when that gave away, that water added to this water, and when that flowed downstream, it went to Sikkim, where you have that NHPC Teesta 5 hydropower plant. So the dam there is intact, but the 5 spillway gate got washed away, and from there it went to Rongpo and then parts of
So
South
if you see pictures of Teesta river, it's not a very wide river. It's a Himalayan river. It's quite narrow. It is fast flowing. It doesn't have the carrying capacity to suddenly take so much more water. And fortunately, because of this alarm, a lot of lives got saved, but these dams were lost. So another one of your stories was what happens to all the money that the state government had borrowed in partnership with owners of the dam to build this dam, and what will happen now.
So Chungtham Dam, which got completely washed away. So that dam work started on the dam way back in 2005, and at that point of time the project cost was just 5,000 crore. But because of various reasons, delays, clearances, the dam finally got commissioned in 2017, and by that time the cost of the dam had
It's typical Indian story.
over 13,000 crore. So, but the thing is that in this Chungtham Dam, it was developed and it's run by Sikkim Urja, which was earlier Teesta Urja, where the state government has a stake. Earlier its stake was 26%, but later in 2015 it increased it to 60%. So state government, the Sikkim government is a majority stakeholder, and then 35% is owned by this private company called Greenco Mauritius, and 5% is with PTC, is a
Power Trading Corporation. So now that the dam is gone, so but this 14,000 crores doesn't go away with the flood, no? Because you said in your stories that the dam was insured.
Yeah, the dam is fully insured, 100% insured, and the company Sikkim Urja, they had filed for claim the very next day, and the process has started. Though it's going to be a long winding process, it's not like settlement of claim for a bike theft or a burglary at your home. So it's going to be a long winding process.
Yeah, but really a great tragedy, many lives lost, environmental damage, and of course besides the human and environmental cost, also the economic cost, because these dams have been taken away. This made the Sikkim flood among the most important stories emerging out of India in a long time. And I feel particularly satisfied that we had a really experienced, wonderful reporter in Moushumi Gupta to bring that story to us, as I would say no one else did in our Indian media.